Welcome to Shut Up and Say Something. I am your host and creator of the show, Deedre Daniel. This podcast is all about how to live a fascinating life, and we're learning how to do that one interesting conversation at a time. We try to stay away from discussing politics, religion, and the ad nauseum topic du jour, but anything else is fair game. And today I am flying solo. I do that on every fifth episode, so you have me all to yourself today. I have a lot going on that I'm attempting to finish before the end of 2022. And this week, I'm focused on raising money for the Big Fat Tip 501c3. Many years ago, I waited tables at Applebee's and I bartended at a fancy French restaurant in Tallahassee called Chez Pierre. I loved those jobs. Even though it was hard work, I had a lot of fun with my coworkers. We were constantly joking around, playing pranks on each other, flirting, and laughing. And I enjoyed chatting with the patrons about various topics. Plus, I just love food and the whole artistry of making a meal someone thoroughly enjoys. I just love that. I love all of that. And I love the adrenaline rush when a crowd of hungry people walked in all at once, taking over all the tables in my section. And suddenly the restaurant would go from like really quiet and peaceful to just controlled chaos. And I just thrived in that situation. And I never wrote down anyone's order. Even with a large party of like 15 people, I never forgot an order. You could come in 6 months later and I would still remember what you ordered. Did you want the chicken finger basket with extra honey mustard dipping sauce and your fries extra crispy with a iced tea that's half sweet, half unsweet with 2 lemons? Yeah, their eyes would light up and they would say, "How do you even remember that? I haven't been here in months." And really, I don't know if I could do that again now, but I think it would be fun to try. I had a bunch of regular customers who would wait to sit in my section. There would be empty seats in other parts of the restaurant, and they would say, "No, that's okay. We'll wait for a table in D's section." And I consistently earned high tips. Other servers would run unofficial competitions with me to see if they could beat my tips at the end of our shifts. And it was a rare day that anyone did. And I remember there was this guy who started to consistently beat me. And this guy was not a very good server. He lacked enthusiasm. He kind of half assed his side work. He was really a bit of a slacker. So it was perplexing that he suddenly and consistently was pulling in more tips than I was. And that caught the attention of one of our managers who fired him because it turns out he was moving beverages. What is that, you ask? Some of you in the industry will know what this is, but for the rest of you, let's say you go out to lunch with three of your friends and you tell the server at the beginning of your meal that you want four separate checks. All of you order a soft drink with your meal. Well, those items are not controlled by any kind of inventory system like a bottle of beer is. So when it comes time to pay, the server only rings up one soft drink or one iced tea on the total bill, but then they move it to each separate check before printing. So you as the patron think everything is fine, but the total drinks rung up for that table is one instead of four. So you pay your bill and the server pockets the tip and the cost of the three soft drinks that were never actually accounted for. So yeah, he was let go. But most people working in the service industry are honestly busting their butt for just a few bucks per transaction. And I remember several of my coworkers had kids, mortgages, health bills, and other expenses that they struggled to cover with the money that they made. And every day the pay was uncertain. We were hopeful that we would have a lot of customers that day and that they would at least tip us 20%. But many don't. Some people leave only $2, regardless of the bill amount, or don't tip at all. And those customers are usually the ones that complain a lot, make a huge mess to clean up, and run you ragged with a bunch of requests. And even though I loved my job and the patrons tipped me well, I knew all it would take was a twist of fate that could land me in this terrible situation. I remember hearing about a couple that would come in on Christmas Eve year after year and leave $100 tip. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. And I vowed that one day when I made it, I would go around handing out big, fat tips. So fast forward almost 2 decades. I left my safe corporate career at Geico and took a job at a small company with an inflated title and a little bit more pay. And a few months after I started working there, I realized I made a mistake. I didn't like working there. And that's okay because a few months later, they decided they didn't like me working there either, and they fired me just before those happy end of the year holidays. So there I was, unemployed for the first time in my adult life. I had all of these big dreams about becoming a multimillionaire, making it. And being unemployed was the opposite of that. So at that moment, I'm hitting rock bottom. And suddenly I became optimistic. And I thought, well, now's the time to actually make the changes in my life that I've always wanted to do, but I didn't have the guts to do it. And I thought about what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. And I realized I had placed too much importance on making money. I was chasing after it for decades, and that made me feel empty inside. And I wanted to give my life more meaning. And I still wanted to be that philanthropist that handed out those big fat tips, but there I was, unemployed. So that was a problem to solve. How do you give away money when you don't have extra money to give away? So I pulled some funds out of my retirement account to give away to some strangers in the form of surprise $1,000 tips. I know that's not a smart use of my funds, but it felt like the right thing to do. And I created an official nonprofit called the Big Fat Tip so individuals and businesses could donate and possibly receive a tax write off. And I wanted to create a movement and a legacy that would live long after I did. And naming it the Big Fat Tip created a fun brand that others could be a part of, which is another reason why I didn't want to name it after me. It's not about me, it's about the movement. So, the mission of the Big Fat Tip is to deliver hope and positive, memorable moments to people working in the US service industry. And our delivery vehicle is $1,000 tip. I pulled together a board of advisors and filled out all of the official paperwork, including obtaining a registered trademark. So we were ready to go. We initially thought that we should have a celebrity present for these drops, to get more attention and draw more donations in. But that proved to be some time sucking endeavors, like working around their schedules. And it took away from like the surprise element of leaving a large sum of money. When a celebrity walks into the room, everyone notices and they immediately think something is up. And the surprise element was very important because when someone is surprised, their brain releases dopamine, and that's a positive feel good chemical that can do wonders for our brain. And a real surprise jolts the person out of their routine. It causes them to become fully present in the moment as they try to make sense of what's happening to them. And it creates that positive, memorable moment that lasts a lifetime. So many D's blur together, but this one will probably never be forgotten. And I didn't want the big fat tip to be about celebrities hogging up the spotlight. I wanted it to be about strangers helping strangers, regular people doing nice things. And although I wanted to be there for these surprises, I didn't want to be in front of the camera. So I started pulling in volunteers to hand over the money for some of the drops. And you can see them featured in various videos on the Big Fat Tip YouTube channel, website, and Facebook page. And seriously, the volunteers are more excited about giving this money away than a lot of times the people receiving it. I mean, don't get me wrong, the people love getting the money, but looking at the volunteers and how excited they are to make someone else's day just makes my heart so happy. I mean, they're thinking about it for days, sometimes weeks leading up to the event. And when we walk in and they see the person who has been randomly assigned to interact with us, their eyes light up as they realize, "Oh, that's our person. That's the person we're getting ready to surprise." And some are so nervous, their hands are shaking as they pass over the receipt. Some of them cry. I mean, it's really sweet. And I almost cry every single time. All recipients are randomly selected strangers. We do not accept nominations or screen people to determine who is worthy of the money. I never want to get into a situation where I'm deciding between a single parent or a person with a terminal illness. I mean, how would you decide in that situation? And that's not the position we want to be in. And that ruins the entire movement of strangers surprising strangers, just a random act of kindness. It is our firm belief that everyone needs a whole lot of hope and a little bit of love. Everyone deserves a big fat tip. And we always seem to find the right person anyway. After receiving the $1,000 tip, servers have told us things like they were praying for money that morning to help with their mother's medical bills, or they were looking under their couch cushions that morning to find change to buy gas to drive their son to college. or they were suddenly forced out of their home and they were struggling to find the money for the deposit on an apartment lease, or they were struggling with depression and they were just so relieved to know that there were good people in the world doing nice things for others. I was speaking at a conference at the Dolphin Hotel on the Disney compound in Orlando. And my husband and I went over to the Contemporary Resort to do a big fat tip drop there. And as we walked up to the bar, the bartender said, "I'm going on a break. I'm closing the bar." And I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "Yes, please go to the pool bar to get a drink." I said, "Okay, then." So we wandered to the pool area and we looked ridiculous because we were both in business attire. We were mostly wearing black. We were fully covered. I had like a leopard print dress on with black leggings and knee-high black boots and this black belt. My husband was wearing like a jacket that was really thick, not something you would wear around a pool. And we completely stuck out and no one would wait on us. So we went back inside to the hotel and a concierge walked over to us because they could tell that we looked lost and confused and asked if we were lost. And I inquired if there was a bar where we could have a cocktail. And he said, "Oh, there's really nothing open at this time of day." And just so you know, it was a little after 3:30 in the afternoon on a Sunday. So we were about to give up. And as we headed out the door, my husband noticed a hallway with glowing lights. And he said, "Hey, I think we should go check that out." And I said, "Yeah, it's probably just their nightclub. Like the marquee lights are reflecting off the white walls in the hallway." But my husband never gives up when he has an idea in his head. So I begrudgingly followed him down the hallway. And at the end of it was a little bar that had just opened up. And we ordered one cocktail and a club soda and then dropped the $1,000 tip on the bartender, who immediately tells us that he has stage 4 cancer and wasn't even going to come to work that day, but he felt better than normal. And he knew he needed to work to help pay his medical bills. So he came into work. And then that happened. The universe just works in these mysterious ways. So I am confident that we find the right people. And I have so many other stories like that. And you can see his video and others on the Big Fat Tip YouTube channel and on Facebook and Instagram. And as of this recording, we have given out 35 surprise $1,000 tips to random strangers working in the US service industry. And I want to do 5 surprise tips before December 20th, and I need your help to make it happen. So please donate today at bigfattip.org. I want you to know that your donation goes straight to the tip. We are a lean, positively mean operating machine. No one at the Big Fat Tip earns a salary, and we do everything possible to reduce administrative expenses. For instance, I edit the videos so we don't have production costs. That's also why they are not Oscar-worthy productions, but I like to think the roughness makes them more authentic. And I cover the other administrative fees out, like website fees and some legal fees and that kind of thing. I pay for those out of my own pocket. So every little bit makes a difference. Most of the donations have been $25, $50, and I am thrilled every time a donation comes through. And if you or your company donate $1,000, we will add you to the end of the individual video as the full sponsor of one tip. If you want to remain anonymous, that is fine too. We've had a couple of those as well. You can see many of those examples on the website at bigfattip.org. Checking out the stats of this podcast, it is available on most major streaming platforms, so my audience is dispersed. And now that I am at 2,000 legit downloads, I have a decent sample size of several hundred downloads on different platforms. And Spotify tells me that my listeners are roughly 68% male, age 35 through 59. Well, hello, boys. And apparently they also listen to Metallica, the Dropkick Murphys, Foo Fighters, and Blink 182. That makes sense. Another frequently listened to artist, Taylor Swift. And Drake, Chris Stapleton, and Hardy pop in from time to time. So thank you for telling your friends, family, and colleagues about this show. The topics we discuss are perfect conversation starters on dates, before meetings start at the office, networking events, and at gatherings with friends and family. And I know this sounds cheesy, but please remember to subscribe, allow notifications to alert you when the next show drops, and rate it on your favorite platform. Special shout out to the Fan-Doe-Philes out there. A Fan-Doe-Phile is an unidentified solo listener who was the only person in the same geographic location to download every available episode of this show. If you hear your city called out by me, tell us who you are by sending an email to service@interestingconversations.com. Once revealed, Fan-Doe-Philes are automatically inducted into the club, receive special recognition, and if they send us their mailing address, a gift from the branded merch collection at interestingconversations.com. And please include a note telling me what you love about the show so I do more of it. That's the kind of feedback that keeps this show going. Many of you have asked me who the Fan-Doe-Philes were, and nobody has emailed me. Nobody. We have a bunch of mystery listeners around the globe. Meanwhile, several people have gone out of their way to let me know that they have listened to every single one of my episodes, but they live in cities with a lot of listeners. And the whole thought behind the Fan-Doe-Phile is it would be one solo listener in one geographic location. And I was studying the report and noticed that a number of the downloads in Brussels, Belgium, home of the original Fan-Doe-Phile, have decreased. How do you unlisten to an episode? You can't undownload a show. Or did I just prove time traveling exists? Anyway, I'm calling BS on some of these reports, which means now I need to change the whole Fan-Doe-Phile structure. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to periodically call out a city with a noticeable amount of downloads. And if you live or work there, you have a chance to win. All you have to do is be the first person to send me an email to service@interestingconversations.com. Tell me what you like about the show or a particular episode you loved and why. Include your mailing address, which should be in the city I called out, and you'll receive a gift from me and automatic membership in the Fan-Doe-Phile Club. So here it goes. Washington, D.C., Tampa, New York City, Atlanta, and Phoenix. And you know what? Good old Lansing, Michigan. Come on, you can do it, Lansing. Don't be shy. The first person to email me from each of those cities wins. And I will call out other cities on the next solo show. If you missed the last few episodes, last week was with the famous hypnotist, Mike Mandel. That show was filled with words you can say and those to avoid to help you take charge of your conversations. There are all sorts of tips you can use for sales, landing a job, or perhaps avoiding a conflict with a relative over the holidays. He even talks about what to do if you're attacked in a dark parking garage. The one before that was with Andrew Markert. He is the head chef and owner of 2 restaurants in Washington, D.C., which are just a few blocks away from the Capitol. And one restaurant's name is Buchert Saloon, and the other one is Fight Club. And he talks about the ups and downs of owning restaurants during COVID and how he innovated to stay in business during that time. We also talk about all things food and his time on this reality TV show called Chopped. If you're a foodie, you definitely need to check out that episode. The one before that was with Joanna Pineda, and she is the CEO and chief troublemaker at Matrix Group International. Talks about how she selects a new word each year to guide her decisions and actions. She also talked about things she did to get her groove back and how she cultivates professional relationships to keep her motivated. And in episode number 21, I talked to entrepreneur Hunter Abramson about his NFT ticketing platform, which builds ongoing value into your event or travel ticket long after it's used, which creates a new kind of membership platform and a way to reduce ticket scalping and fraud. Next week is with Jay Che, who is owner of the Karate Beyond Dojo in Lakeland. We talk about taking chances and how you can chase a dream while still holding down a 9-to-5 job. And we talk about many other unrelated and interesting things. The following week is with Trent Modglin. He is the publisher of the Real Chicago magazine, and expect that episode to be filled with a lot of travel tips and some other stories. For those of you who stick around after the ending show music, you probably have noticed that I have included some bonus material for your listening pleasure. And that's my way of thanking you for sticking around. That's it for now. Thanks for listening. Go forward, my friends. Be interesting. Here is your official bonus track for sticking around. The following are 3 tips or life hacks just for you. If you are gathering with friends or family and traditionally take a group photo, place people on the edges who you think may not be there next time. Meaning, if somebody in your family just started dating somebody, or if you happen to know that a particular couple is going through a divorce, or it's an annoying guest. If you place them on the perimeter of the photo, you can more easily cut them out later without disrupting the group picture. I know that might sound a little mean, but there are those times where that one person ruined the photo. And it's a lot nicer to take the picture with them and then just cut them out later. Number two, if you make a large meal and want to portion out the leftovers, metal muffin trays work like your own homemade TV dinner tray. You can include the main course and all the sides, cover it in foil, and reheat in a conventional or toaster oven at the same time. It travels well too. This is an excellent way to bring food to loved ones or someone who perhaps is housebound or maybe was just unable to attend the meal for other reasons. And number three, this is my favorite travel hack. If you're staying in a hotel and cannot fall asleep or sleep past the sun up due to that annoying crack of light coming through the closed curtains, take a trouser hanger from the closet and use the clamps to completely close the curtains. All you got to do is fold one curtain over the other to block out all the light. So hold it together and then you can clamp it with the hanger clamps. Usually one hanger will do the trick. Thanks again for listening. And thank you if you have supported the Big Fat Tip in the past. And thank you for continuing to support it in the future. We need your help, and you can make a difference with even small donations. All of those dollars add up to push out more positive energy out into the world. Donate to the Big Fat Tip because you want to see more positive interactions in the world.